So, Katrina, with no further ado, thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed by me today. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Not a problem.
Can you tell me about your brand?
Yes. So my brand is Katrina Court Coaching, and I work exclusively with mums as they transition into the world of motherhood, supporting them through the period that is known as matrescence, where a woman's identity completely changes as her world is flipped upside down, and as she welcomes a new child into the world, but also a new version of herself. So I work with mums typically in the early years of motherhood as they're trying to to navigate this new life, to understand how they have changed, to to kind of to learn, I guess, who they are now that they are a mum. It can be a time that throws up lots of challenges, difficult emotions, transitioning back into the workplace if that is something that they choose to do, which can be a very challenging time, particularly with the pressure, I guess, that a lot of women feel from society to bounce back into their old bodies, lives, and dreams. It can be a very turbulent time, raise a lot of big questions, but it's also a time for self-discovery, huge opportunity for growth. So being able to act as a safe space, and to coach these women during such a vulnerable time, but equally what could be quite a hugely exciting time in their lives, is a real privilege.
Thank you so much. So, what's your mission?
So I think it really starts with why I first went into coaching, and why I chose to work, I guess, in this niche area of supporting new mums, and it all really comes from my own personal experience. I thought I was super prepared to become a mum. Um, I'd done all the research, I'd read all the books, I'd attended all the classes, and I don't know, it sounds really arrogant, but I think at the time I thought, I'm ready for this, I can do this. And I think it's safe to say I was totally blindsided. The reality was not what I expected. I really, really struggled with my loss of identity. This person in front of me wasn't someone that I recognized anymore. But I did what a lot of women do. I now know is that I just kind of self-silence that. I just assumed that there was something that I was doing wrong, which then made me feel very ashamed. And so I just soldiered on until it got to a point where I couldn't do that anymore. And my body wouldn't allow me to do that. And so I was forced to stop. I was forced to really start to look at how I had changed and what I was going to do about that. But it was a really lonely time, and it took about 2 years for me to make that decision to kind of to speak out and get help. And so my mission, I guess, off the back of that really is I just don't want, another woman to feel that way. I don't want another woman to go for 2 years and feel that she doesn't know what the hell is going on with her, and that she doesn't know who she can talk to. So so I guess my mission is to make mums feel seen and valued and held, um, because yeah, I don't want anyone else to go through what I did.
I can really hear the passion and the emotion in your voice, Katrina. My next question was going to be what drives you to achieving your mission, but I feel like you've really explained it there.
Yeah, I think that there's that. And I think also, I have a daughter myself, and I think as a society, motherhood and mothers are completely undervalued and unsupported. And I'm really proud to be part of, I think there's a wave of mothers who are taking it upon themselves to make a change and to become that support. And so my hope is that when my daughter gets to a point in her life where she thinks that motherhood could be an option for her, and it's not a given, it's not something that I would ever pressure her or assume that she would want to do, but if she does, to know that perhaps the world being in a slightly different place by then, and that these conversations around matrescence, around the challenges and the reality of motherhood, for this more honest, I think, portrayal of motherhood in the media and social media and society and everything. That's kind of a real big driver as well. So
Thank you so much. A really thorough answer there. Where did, in terms of your coaching journey,
Mm.
can you talk to me about where that began?
Yeah, sure. So my background is comms. I worked in comms for 15 years before I decided to admit that it wasn't right for me. I think when I look back now, it was probably earlier points in my career where I could have made the move. But anyway, that's not what you've asked. But I think when it came to coaching, so I guess throughout my probably latter part of my career, I had been exposed to coaching myself, and I think I probably dabbled a little bit in informal coaching within my role. I had quite a people facing role, and it was always something that really, I guess, interested me. And just, I think, yeah, the fact of just listening. I think I've always been someone that listens more than she talks. So I think there were lots of things that kind of appealed to me. And when I decided that I needed to kind of to leave that world, and think about what I wanted to do, um, I decided that I really wanted to go and kind of pursue some coaching training. At that point, I think when I very first signed up for actually to do the animals, I didn't necessarily think that or I didn't know for certain that I would become a full-time coach, but I knew that it was something I was really passionate in, and I knew that whatever I learned through doing this, I would be able to apply in some way. Um, so yeah, I think hopefully that answers your question.
Definitely, definitely. Um, can you tell me more about your decision? How did you decide to train as a coach with Animas?
With Animas. So I mean, I did my research. So I looked at other schools as well. I attended a couple of the kind of like open sessions where you can go and find out more and kind of get to a bit more of an understanding of what to expect from the schools. And I don't know, there was just something about Animas that really stood out. I can remember on the like kind of the introduction day, that I became a little bit pally with one of the other people on the course, just through the chat. We had quite a similar backgrounds, and I can remember leaving the call, and I messaged her separately saying, "Yeah, I think I've made my mind up. This is definitely for me." And so it was really a really easy decision, I think, when it came down to it, um, that there was just something where I felt like I belonged, uh, at Animas.
Sound like it was meant to be.
Yeah, yeah, and it's amazing actually how kind of since I've kind of graduated and kind of expanded my network of coaches, how many other Animas coaches I come across in kind of in similar communities that I'm part of. So I think there is definitely something about yeah, I don't know, there's kind of shared values and kind of the types of people I think that are attracted to Animas. They're yeah, on the same kind of energy level because they seem to turn up everywhere I go.
The small world,
Yeah,
coaching world.
yeah.
And how did your expectations for the course compare with the reality?
Um, it's a good question, and I think if I'm being truthful, I wasn't really sure what to expect when I very first signed up. I didn't really know what I was getting myself in for. um, and I think though from very early on, I knew that it would that I was doing something and that it was in depth. You know, I think that there was some depth to it. It wasn't going to be, you know, superficial. And I think that kind of really reassured me that, you know, what I'm doing here is I am you know, going to be walking away with you know, some real kind of skill and competencies rather than you know, this kind of surface layer. And I think again, I think having been in the industry for a little while now and kind of seeing, you know, all other kinds of kind of coaching and yeah, so there was there. So I think that so I was reassured really early on. I think in terms of the trainers, um, you know, everyone that I came across and had the kind of the pleasure of knowing from, you know, they were all um just yeah, just amazing, you know, in terms of like their experience, but also the way that they were the way that they conducted themselves, the way that they treated us. And I don't know, there was, you know, it's you know, I think one of the first things obviously that you learn you know, as a coach is that, you know, you are equals and that, you know, you're side by side with someone. And I think even from a training um perspective, that felt, you know, there wasn't this, you know, we're up here, we know it all and you're learning from us. You know, it did feel very yeah, yeah, it was a lovely experience.
Like a good culture of equals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I found it very inclusive as well.
yeah.
Never felt as though I was singled out or inadequate in any way at all. It was a kind of everybody's welcome here. No question's a bad question. If you ask a silly question, we'll probably just all laugh. You know, it was,
Yeah, yeah, and I think actually that's a good point. I think that also being respectful that people have different personalities, you know, different ways of learning, and not everyone, you know, wants to put their hand up all the time and, you know, and participate. So it was, yeah, it was very creating that safe open space to encourage participation, but never being forced. Because actually, actually thinking about it, I think that was one of the things that I was a little bit kind of I'm like, oh my god, it's going to be lots of like on the spot, you know. And it never was, even when we had to do our you know, our coaching. I can't remember exactly what they used to call it, but you know, we used to kind of like in the hot seat
oh
type
yeah,
thing.
the
Yeah,
practice session,
observe practice.
observation. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
it.
it never felt you know, that you were being judged and yeah, so that's good.
um, Thank you very much. So, moving on to what impact has training as a coach had on your life?
I think just the ability to have better conversations, and I know that sounds kind of really cliche, but it does. I think you realize very, very quickly once you start going through kind of your coaching training how how badly we listen, and yeah, so I think that that is probably kind of like the single most impactful thing. And of course it's something that you do every day. So yeah, just being able to really listen, and to and not in a way that not in a way that you're always coaching, because that that will become exhausting very quickly, but just, yeah, even just in a normal conversation, just having a um lot more respect, I think, for the person that's talking.
I can relate to that. I particularly remember when we did an activity where I think it was 3 minutes of silence, and that someone had to be silent, the listener had to be silent for three
Yeah.
minutes, and the speaker had to speak for 3 minutes. As the speaker, easiest thing ever, total pleasure. It was wonderful. As the listener, it felt really awkward, really difficult. You felt like you weren't contributing, and it was so telling how differently we felt, despite the fact it was exactly the same conversation for both people. And yeah, that for me was a huge light bulb moment.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny though, I think there are some situations though where I actually feel that it's allowed me, or it's given me kind of permission to be silent, because, as I said, I think I've always been someone who'd rather listen than talk sometimes. And particularly in, I think, in my old kind of line of work, that was weird. That was weird. Like that's not what you do. You're there, you're throwing the ideas around, you're talking constantly. So I always felt, well, either self-conscious about it, or felt I had to almost override my natural instinct to just listen, and then when I want to say something. um so yeah, I feel like there's real freedom now, um when I'm in those situations, because I'm like, I don't need to do that, and actually I'm using a skill that I have. So yeah, so I think it works both ways in some senses.
It's very clear that it's had a very profound impact on your life, coaching.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing anything else now.
That's as good a line as ever any. um, but you're not getting away with it ending there. So, what along your coaching journey, what are some of the challenges you've encountered?
So I think the the biggest challenge was probably after qualifying, and kind of going from that real kind of high in exhilaration of, you know, finding something that you're really passionate about, and then just wanting to go and share that with the world. And then and then realizing that there's this whole other side, which is about building, you know, building something that people can actually come and kind of pay you for your services. So I think that that has definitely been probably the the thing that I wasn't totally prepared for. I think there are parts of that as well that aren't what I necessarily enjoy the most, but I found ways now of doing it in a way that kind of feels okay for sort of thing. So I'm talking about kind of marketing and things like that. It's not something that I would, if I could do without that, I would. um so I think so I think there's that. I think then the other thing was something we touched on a little bit before, is I think once you're fully immersed in this industry, I think I think you start to realize actually, of course it's an unregulated industry, and not everyone goes through the same process that we did, going through a really reputable school and committing to to ongoing CPD and all of that. And yeah, and there's a lot, I think there's a lot of people calling themselves coaches that do give the industry a bad reputation. And I think that that really becomes quite apparent um when you're you kind of in that world. I think, and again, and I think particularly probably because of the niche that I'm in, I think sometimes there's a lot that can come up that is that can be quite triggering. And so actually, I found finding having kind of my own coaching, my own outlets where I can kind of go and work through that. I think that's again not necessarily something perhaps I was um expecting. um so so there've been a few of those moments, and it's usually just a sign that there's a little bit more work to do on ourselves somewhere, and as long as you've kind of got your own safe space to go and do that, it's fine. But yeah, I would say that they're probably kind of like the three biggest ones. um yeah.
The third one sounded a bit like just a shout out to the importance of coaching supervision.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's actually something that just yesterday I was on a call looking at that, because I think up until this point, not that it hasn't felt necessary, but I think until you have a certain volume of kind of clients, it isn't always kind of top of mind. But yeah, that's definitely an important part. And I think, yeah, sometimes it can just be overlooked. But
So, what in terms of coaching and your
mm.
coaching journey, what's the best advice you've ever been given?
Oh, um that is such a difficult question.
No pressure, by the way.
I don't know. I've had lots of lots of advice along the way. I don't know. Can I come back to that?
Yeah. So when I asked Marie this question,
Yeah.
interestingly, she struggled with it and she just went for, I'll tell you what, instead of that, I'll tell you the things I liked about the Animas course and then a few suggestions for improvements, which was an interesting, because my follow-up question would have been,
Mm.
is there any bad advice that you've had?
Yeah.
Like watch outs for prospective coaches?
Oh, I think my biggest watch out is to is to watch out for business coaches that prey on, I think, the vulnerability that you can feel when you first go into this world with no paying clients, or if you do graduate with paying clients, it's normally quite low rates, and you're still doing it for practice. But yeah, so beware the people that promise that they can turn you into um a six-figure coach overnight. And I think filtering through that, and there is a lot of stuff. As soon as you think you put yourself out there, particularly if you put yourself out there on social media, the DMs start coming. So there's that. I think actually slightly related to that, and this is good advice, not bad advice, I'm terrific. But I think one of the best things that someone said to me last year was hold your nerve, and that the your ideal clients are out there. There's lots of them, just waiting for you, and that it will, it will come, but it's, yeah, so I think linked to those things, like not necessarily jumping in kind of for the quick win promises, and holding your nerves slightly. And then I think the other thing, which someone said to me, and I think this is definitely is actually just to keep coaching, even if you are kind of looking to build up a practice, or perhaps you actually haven't left kind of your full-time job yet and you're figuring out, but just keep coaching, even if it is for free, or for a very small amount, but just kind of keeping at that. Yeah, so I kind of take any opportunity that, that someone, I feel that someone needs to be listened, and, and space to have a good conversation, that it's always value. There's always value in it.
Anyone who encounters you that's in need is a very lucky person at the right place at the right time. And finally, what are your future plans?
Future plans. So my future plans. So I think it's difficult because actually I decided that I wasn't going to pressure myself into having big goals. So even for this year, I have given myself quarterly goals, and of what I want to do. And they're not all financial related by any means. It's just so smaller milestones. And I think particularly as I'm entering my own kind of next transition in life as a mother, with my daughter about to start school in September, and everything, all the changes that will bring in terms of my working day, where I'm needed, all of that. So I think my plan really is to focus on getting settled into school. Obviously kind of keep doing what I'm doing in the meantime, but then probably take stock again as to what I really want, my business, my practice to look like, alongside having a school child.
It's a really good question. It's a really good reminder that goals and need not just all be business KPIs. It can be, life based.
Yeah.
Because ultimately we work to live, not live to work. It's a really good reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the reasons, actually why I then decided to try and make a career out of coaching, because it can afford me the flexibility to fit in around, my life as a mum, and blend them in a way that kind of works, um, for me at the different stages, because I know that actually, it might be that I have a really intense 3 months when she first starts, and then things will probably start to settle down again, and things will change, and there will be times when that intensity will ramp up again. So being able to create something that can grow, I think, alongside my daughter, is probably one of the kind of my key goals, actually, for what happens, something that can grow with her and around her.
I love that. Really powerful. Any final thoughts, and is there a message you'd like to give to future prospective Animas coaches?
I would say that, if anyone is on the fence, about doing this course, that they should take a leap of faith. I don't think that anyone would ever regret, yeah, being part of this, and this just that there's so much, I think, that you get from this experience, not just in terms of professional skills and qualifications, but actually I think in terms of what you get from it as a person, and how much you understand about yourself, and how much you grow, throughout those months, and then the many months that follow. um yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much.